after Black History Month book, like a supplement. Like I don't want there to have to be like a women's Black History book. You know what I mean? Or like a queer Black History book. I don't want to make the same mistake that, you know, the reason why we have a Black History in its own words book. So, and I got excited and I did 12. And so then the next year I was like, oh, I'm going to do it again. And I did it again. And then Eric Stevenson reached out and was like, oh, I really like this. I'm digging this. Maybe we should make a book. I was like, word, let's make a book. So then I did 14 or 15 more for this year. And they're debuting in the book. And on my Instagram, kind of for free. So. Not all of them, but like, you know, most of them.
Some of them. Yeah. Check his Instagram because he's selling some of those pages.
It's lit.
You know, help him eat while he make his other comics.
You know, I'm out here for free, y'all. I just came out to see y'all faces. You know, that's it. It's true.
Talking about this, there's an interesting choice of styles. Each year, you decide to change up how you draw and portray each of these figures. What went into your mind on why you chose to change up your style for each year?
It was organic, man. Like the first year was just a plain headshot, and then trying to like find a negative space to put the writing, like the quote. And then the second year, I started to think about kind of using a different sort of motif for each. You know, like so if there were writers, like the book, so on and so forth. And also, because I did these letterpress postcards last year, I was thinking for the second year how to make it bring in like a different values without using grays. So I was thinking more about the print process. That's why I was using like the halftones. And because letterpress, it would be cheaper for me to just do one color and then have black. And then this last year, I was working for print. I wasn't thinking about doing the halftone thing. I may have used some halftones. I'm not sure. Maybe just like for texture. And the entire time I've been thinking about Emory Douglas. So that's kind of like what pulls it all together, I think. That deference to the sort of graphic tradition of Emory Douglas.
Okay.
And the motifs come in more so in the more recent work, and like you see maybe some of like my own personal artistic lineage. Like some of the motifs speak to things that I'm into. Like for Johnson, like I used like sunflowers. It has absolutely nothing to do with her, but like I kind of thought like the motif fit. And this year, everything kind of ties directly back to the figure. Something specific about the figure. So like butterfly and the hook side butterfly and bees for Muhammad Ali.
Yeah. So
I don't know this. I don't know. Yeah.
So since it's out, are you happy with how it all turned out?
Yeah, man. It was crazy because I don't know how if it works like this for you guys, but like sometimes you have you're doing a whole bunch of work. Someone's like, okay, well we're gonna need this from you, and like I don't know, I'm juggling trying to make all my money and trying to like pay my bills or whatever, and I totally lose sight of when something is supposed to come out. And working with Image, it's the first time I've had to work with like these solicitation dates and making sure you have whatever artwork ready, cover ready for. Excuse me, I have some good ramen. You gotta have it, and so Eric's like, oh, like we need the work by such and such, and we need the cover. I was like, fuck. I did the fastest ones I did were the ones from this year, but like they have, I think, a pretty. I'm excited with how it came out because like although I did them fast, I'm happy with how they turned out. Like I turned them around really fast. I won't say how fast I turn them around because then you may think I'm overcharging you for the book. I turned them around really fast, and I'm happy with how they came out.
Okay. Now, going back to the style question that I just asked him, this goes for the rest of you guys. This time I'll start with this Chris on this side. So I'll start with the introductions on this side.
Okay.
In terms of style, when you create work, what goes into your mind on how you are going to portray or communicate whatever you're trying to communicate?
I mean, usually it's off the mood or whatever the subject's evoking. Like, just trying to take into account what you're drawing, what you're trying to communicate. And then even, like, with the jump in the style, like, year to year, I feel like it's always showing progression, that you've learned something or you've internalized something throughout that time period. So if you're doing the same thing, at least for me, like, if you're doing the same thing that you were doing, like, last year, like, something hasn't affected you yet. Or, you know, you're not searching or asking questions. So I usually, like, if I'm doing a piece, not to get too wordy, but I like to ask myself questions, or what can I do, or what can I do differently than the last piece I did.
Okay.
So, hey, do you guys mind speaking up a little bit?
Oh, sorry about that. Can everybody hear me? No. Okay. All right, now. Sorry. Basically, what I was saying is that I try to always internalize something or look at the subject matter and be inspired by what mood it's invoking, and that usually dictates how I handle the subject matter. So, and also just learning. If I'm doing a piece, you know, one way last year, hopefully, you know, next year I'll be doing it in a different way because I took in something. So.
Yeah, I have to agree. That's how I go about. I'm doing a lot more right now. I'm doing a lot more illustration work than I am comics work. I do it on the side. I do just like daily comics, but I get a range between anything from something that's super sophisticated to something that's very childlike. So I look at the content, and if it's calling for something that's dealing with childlike memories, I'm not gonna tackle it the same way I do a piece for like time or something. It's all about like subject matter, how the mood's going. If it's like a delightful piece, I'm obviously gonna use like more upbeat colors to tackle that. And the thing with style, I think it also has to do with like, you know, growth. Obviously, something I did last year, and that recently happened with an anthology I was doing that took place like 2 years ago.
Oh, yeah.
And they had like calls or something, and I looked back, and they were like, "Hey, you can do like an updated, like send us an update," and I was like, "Thank God."
It was like you can make some changes to
yeah,
your
make some
piece.
changes, and I was like, "Yeah, I'm about to send you a whole new piece."
Wow.
Because what I did for you guys 2 years ago was not good.
Do you ever feel like a danger in that though? Kind of like going back.
Well, they're showing both. They're gonna show both. Which, for a moment, I was like, oh no, I don't want like my bad work out there. But I think it's good to see that.
Because you weren't bad at the time.
Yeah, I thought it was hot shit. So yeah. So I can see the dangers in that, but I'm glad that they decided to just keep both, so you can see like that growth and that like progress.
Yeah. I gotta agree with everybody else here. It depends on the content, and deadline is a big thing for me.
Yeah.
I might have a job that let's see, I was working with New York Times last year, and
It was a whole day, right?
less than that. It was like 6
6
hours.
hours, yeah.
6 hours from sketch to final, and I found out that work had nothing like. My process changed entirely from when I had a poster or a pinup that was like 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So I have to make a lot of decisions in how I represent the form, and how I design, and composition is a big thing. So I always have to go back to my fundamentals, because at the end of the day, style is just it's just a combination of all the fundamental. It's a combination of all the fundamentals you've learned over time, and how you choose to use those.
I like how you said deadline, because I can definitely see my deadlines that were a lot tighter. I realized that line work was going to like compromise time and stuff, so I was like, I just need to focus on shapes.
Actually, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say there's something interesting. We tend to work very differently under different time constraints. Like, I will say that I've made my best work and enjoyed most of my work when under those extreme conditions where I have like hours. Like that New York Times piece was one of my most sound, most complete, and other pieces where I just had more time, I floundered, and you can see the indecision, you can see all the other choices that go into a piece that eats up time. So whenever you're working on a certain constraints, you might be forced to make decisions in a way that you wouldn't think.
Chris, did you guys see that show, that Netflix show? It started out with the guy who does the New Yorker covers. He does like a Sunday drawing.
Wait, weren't you just?
It's really good because he brings up that particular thing that happens when you don't have the time, where like you really lean into like what it means to design and like the idea.
Yeah.
You can't really you can't rely so much on like a craftsmanship, you know.
Yeah.
But you really have to kind of, and I like this work too, and Lighten Up kind of is an example of that, where it's like, okay, recently they asked, oh, well, we want to display some of the original artwork, and I'm like, it's literally just a bunch of crude drawings on printer paper, you know what I mean, that I scanned in, and I did a lot of the work, you know, the coloring it on Photoshop, and it was some of the most, I think, visually communicative work that I've done, and people who don't read comics can understand it, you know.